A US jury has found 4 former security guards guilty of killing unarmed civilians in Iraq 7 years ago. The men had been working for the company formerly called Blackwater. One defendant has been convicted of murder and the other 3 of manslaughter. They opened fire on a crowd of Iraqis in the middle of Baghdad in 2007. 17 people were killed and dozens wounded. The massacre inflamed anti-American sentiment across the Muslim world. The killers are now awaiting sentences. Well, let's get a reaction from Peter Mark Van Buren, a former US Foreign Service employee who also spent time in Iraq. Thank you for talking to us here on RT. Why did it take 7 years then to get these convictions?
This is the question that I think needs to be asked, is why did it take 7 years to get these convictions? The basic facts have been known for that entire period of time. There's been no great gathering of information. There's been no forensics. There's been no clear reason why it's taken 7 years. The thing that leaves me a little bit questioning about that delay is, in fact, the timing of the decision. Perhaps it's just a coincidence, and I don't prefer to traffic in conspiracy theories, but after 7 years of non-action, suddenly at a time when the United States is ready to re-engage deeply in Iraq, to perhaps send even more troops back into Iraq, suddenly this incident from 7 years ago is cleared up in a way that seems to suggest Americans don't have the immunity in Iraq that many Iraqis thought they did. Timing is everything.
Well, the men who pulled the triggers are being held to account. We've seen that. But what about their superiors? Has this gone up the chain in any way?
It does not appear to be that way at all. And in fact, not only are the superiors not being charged, but no one from the State Department who hired, allegedly supervised, and in fact for many years helped defend the actions of Blackwater, no one from the State Department is being called to responsibility for any of this.
Does this verdict mean, do you think, that further thorough investigations could start? Could this open the floodgates in many ways for similar investigations and similar convictions?
I think it's very unlikely. This case achieved a certain celebrity status, if you will, largely because of the extremity of the violence and the number of people who were killed. I think that most of the other incidences were small enough and localized enough and did not get the media attention that they'll have a tendency to just disappear into history with respect to the dead Iraqis.
Well, there have been similar cases in Iraq and in Afghanistan as well. How many people have been held accountable over the years? Is this the only case?
I can't say for certain it's the only case, but it's the only significant case that I'm aware of. In the military, there exist clear procedures on what to be done if an atrocity occurs. There are problems with those procedures, and not every incident atrocity is followed up on. We acknowledge all that, but there are pathways to finding solutions, finding answers to those things. When you hire mercenaries, and that's what Blackwater were men with guns hired to shoot people on behalf of the United States government, which is clearly a definition of mercenary. There are no rules. And so it's much easier for people to get away with murder than it is for a soldier to do the same.
Well, you say there that they're mercenaries. Some of these contractors say that civilian casualties are a consequence of urban warfare. Is that in any form of defense?
I think that's a lousy defense if you're talking to the relatives of the dead Iraqis, and I think it's a lousy defense when you're saying that these individuals, in one way or another, were representing the United States of America on the ground in Iraq. No, it's not a defense.
Thank you very much for your time. Peter Mark Van Buren, former US Foreign Service employee. Thank you for joining us here on RT International.
In tradition with a guy named Bill Donovan, who was the founder of the OSS, the predecessor of the CIA. He believed that there's a lot to be gained from using a civilian capability from the know-how of Americans that have capability, courage, and know-how to do things in difficult places. And so I tried to continue that tradition.
You personally, do you believe the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were necessary or just a business opportunity?
Well, look, 9/11 really damaged the American psyche. When you have, the 2 tallest buildings in New York and the Pentagon and even a 4th aircraft trying to attack simultaneously, Sure, the Taliban were hosting al-Qaeda, and they wouldn't reject him. The Afghanistan war was absolutely necessary. In hindsight, it probably should have been more of a punitive raid, and then leave, not stay for, 12 years.
I mean, you are very proud of what you've achieved. You explained many times why, and you argued very well. But for people in general, Blackwater thrived on conflict and misery. Did it ever bother you, if you look at it that way?
No.